So, Jai Hind and welcome to Malhotra's IAS. A very good afternoon to all of you and welcome to the weekly current affairs class for polity and governance. So, as you all know that the prelims, civil services prelims examination 2022 is approaching, time is running, and you really need to up your preparation, right? So, before we begin today's session, let me just give you a gentle reminder that we here at Malhotra's IAS are conducting free all India open mock tests by the name of the Siddhi prelims test series, right? You can just go in the description box of this video and check out the link which is available there if you want to register for that test. Apart from that, you can also just check in the comment section and you'll get the link to the registration for the Siddhi prelims all India open mock test, which is going to be conducted in this upcoming Sunday, and the last full length test will be conducted on the next Sunday. So it's a suggestion that you get yourselves enrolled and take the benefit for that. Yes. All right. So then let's begin with the today's current affairs class for polity and governance. We are going to take three topics for today. तीन topics discuss करेंगे आज. The first is going to be very important. That is the imposition or the alleged imposition of Hindi language by the central government on some of the northeastern states, जो काफी ज्यादा विवाद में रहा इस पूरे हफ्ते में. इससे पिछले हफ्ते में भी we have had n number of editorials talking about this issue. Right, that is going to the first issue. The second issue is pertaining to the amendments to the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, the FCRA, and interestingly, the Supreme Court has given its nod to those amendments. Supreme Court has accepted those amendments to be constitutionally valid. Right, that is going to the second topic. The third and the last topic for the day is going to be, it concerns the zonal councils. The Eastern Zonal Council meet is upcoming, and that is why it becomes relevant for us to discuss what is the constitutional mandate, what are the provisions, the functions, and the composition of these councils. Right. So let's enter into the first topic that is very important from your both mains examination, even your interview, and certainly the prelims perspective. So what is the issue? Issue हुआ क्या है? कई सारे न्यूज़पेपर्स में आप लोगों ने आर्टिकल्स देखे होंगे. Move to make Hindi compulsory in Northeast schools will create disharmony. Northeast groups have opposed the center's Hindi move, calling it an imposition. And recently, the Union Home Minister also just touched upon this issue, where he said that maybe we can give preference to Hindi over English. मतलब कि what the Union Home Minister clarified later कि हम क्या कर सकते हैं, we can give preference to the Hindi language over English language as a medium of communication when we are talking to different people from different parts, different states of the country. Right. He had, although he also, we can say that he had clarified what he had meant to say, but yes, that is what he has told the press persons, and certainly that has caught the eye of the media. Apart from that, if we talk about the constitutional provisions, देखो simple सी बात है कि हमारे देश में we are a very culturally diverse country, है ना? हमारे देश में इतनी विविधता है. We have so many languages, we have so many dialects which are spoken across the length and breadth of this country, है ना? तो हम एक लैंग्वेज को तो इम्पोज नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन हम ये कर सकते हैं that yes certainly अगर हमारे पास कुछ स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं या कह लो कि कुछ हमारे पास ऐसी एम्पेरिकल या कह लो एविडेंसेस हैं जिसके बेसिस पे हम एक लैंग्वेज को मे बी वी कैन अज्यूम और मे बी वी कैन इमेजिन दैट लैंग्वेज टू बी वन लैंग्वेज which can be given preference over a foreign language, certainly like English, then that is what the idea is behind this particular move by the central government. Right. Chaliye. So if we talk about the constitutional provisions, then you have articles which specifically talk about that which languages in the country are the official languages. देखो जब 1947 में constitution draft process शुरू हुआ, and in 1950 when the constitution finally was adopted and enacted by the Constituent Assembly, at that point of time, what was the provision? We are just going to discuss into that कि Article 343 precisely बात करता है आपकी languages के बारे में. 343 sub clause 1 talks about that Hindi in Devanagari script is going to be the official language of the country. अब इस चीज को please do not confuse it with the national language. ये national language नहीं है, सिर्फ official language है. ठीक है. Then Article 343 sub clause 2 talks about that English certainly will continue for 15 years. क्यों? क्योंकि देखो आप पूरी across length and breadth of the country गवर्नेंस को चलाने के लिए सरकार का कामकाज, एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का कामकाज सही तरीके से हो पाए, वी दैट इज वाई हमें क्या था, एक रिक्वायरमेंट थी ऐसी लैंग्वेज की जिसके थ्रू एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन का काम जो है दैट कैन बी डन एट कन्वीनियंस, एंड फॉर दैट एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव कन्वीनियंस इंग्लिश वाज आल्सो made the official language, right? It was certainly the official language before independence also, और इसीलिए कहा जाता है कि इंग्लिश में एक हमारे पास जो कन्वीनियंस का फैक्टर होगा, उस कन्वीनियंस के फैक्टर को ध्यान में रखते हुए बेसिकली इट वाज गिवन द स्टेटस ऑफ द ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज ऑफ द कंट्री अलोंग विद हिंदी, राइट? नाउ आर्टिकल 343 clause 3 says that the parliament may by law prescribe for the official language policy after the completion of 15 years. मतलब कि आफ्टर द इनैक्टमेंट ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन 15 साल तक तो हमने इंग्लिश को कंटिन्यू करने की बात करी, एंड उसके बाद हमने कहा कि इट विल बी द प्रेरोगेटिव ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट, मतलब कि संसद के ऊपर ये बात छोड़ दी गई कि वो किस तरीके से लॉ लेके आएंगे, एंड दे विल ब्रिंग इन द और दे विल कंटिन्यू द ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज पॉलिसी, ठीक है, जो कि आज तक जो है हम इंग्लिश को ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज की कैपेसिटी में कंटिन्यू कर रहे हैं, राइट? दैट इज द फर्स्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन. नाउ without talking about the schedule 6, this discussion will not be complete. Why? Because we all know that there are 12 schedules in the constitution, and the 8th schedule specifically talks about what? ये बात करता है आपकी जो scheduled languages हैं in the 8th schedule to the constitution. अब इस schedule में क्या English है? No. English is not a part of the schedule 8 to the constitution of India. एक प्रीलिम्स का क्वेश्चन यहां से बन सकता है. देयर कैन बी अ previous question, there can be an MCQ on that. Please remember that English out of all these languages, कहीं पे भी आपको English नहीं दिखेगी. ये टोटल जो हैं 22 languages हैं which are mentioned in the schedule 8 to the constitution, right? And इसमें से there can be prelims based questions. How? They can ask you that which were the languages which were present originally in the constitution at the time of its enactment. The second question can be, or the second statement can be based on which were the languages which were added after the constitution was adopted in 1950. So as you can see that Sindhi, Konkani, Manipuri, Nepali, Santhali, Maithili, Dogri and Bodo, these were the languages which were not present in the constitution in 1950 when the constitution was enacted, right? तो ये सारी जो languages हैं, these were added later. Yes, Prashant, good afternoon. Don't worry, I'll be bilingual. I'll be speaking in Hindi and English both, so as to cater to maximum number of people, right? So this can be one potential prelims based question that can be asked. So please remember that which are the original languages and which are the ones which were later added. So that is the 8th schedule in the constitution. Now considering some of the statistics and what is the present status with respect to Hindi in the country. कि क्या इस वक्त what exactly is the prevalence of Hindi in this nation right now, because of which this debate has been reignited. So as you know that there have been censuses which we conduct. So according to the 2011 census, जिसको आप हिंदी में क्या कहते हो, जनगणना कहते हो. So according to the 2011 census, if we talk about, then you can see that there are 121 mother tongues, and out of these you have some mentioned in the 8th schedule, right? जो 22 languages which are a part of the 8th schedule, they also form the 121 mother tongues. Out of all those, Hindi is the most widely spoken, because there are multiple states in northern India and central India which speak Hindi, which subscribe to Hindi, and roughly we can say more than 52 crore people, or 43% of the population, according to the 2011 census, they speak Hindi, right? And they have declared Hindi as their mother tongue. That is one argument which favors the popularity of Hindi, right? Apart from that, when we talk about the second preferred language, except their mother tongue, or apart from the mother tongue of the people, what is their second most spoken language? Then we take off, then the take of Hindi, or the prevalence of Hindi is about 11%, more than roughly we can say 14 crore people. They reportedly have said that this is their second preferred language after their mother tongue, right? So this also makes Hindi, when we talk about it as a second language, that approximately either people are having their Hindi as their mother tongue, or they are having Hindi as their second preferred language. Approximately 55% of the population falls into that category, right? Apart from that, this is the first thing. The next thing is that except for Hindi, you also have Bengali, which is the next highest mother tongue which is spoken across the country, and that is for some 8% of the population which subscribes to Bengali language, right? So let's take a look at, there have been charts in the newspapers which I have taken up from the Express. So if we talk about Hindi's prevalence, then among the 121, 122 odd languages which we speak in this country as mother tongues, you have the growth of Hindi as, over the years from 1971, 81, 91, then 2001 and 2011. Dekho, after every span of 10 years, there is a census which is conducted, right? That is why you call it a decennial census, है ना? कि हर 10 साल में जनगणना होती है. So if we talk about the growth of Hindi, then these numbers clearly tell us that since 1971, 1981, you have 37%, 38%, 39%, roughly 40%, 41% and 43%. See, what you need to look into this basic statistics is that from 1971 till 1981 and 91, there was also a growth in the population size of this country, and correspondingly the persons or the people in the country who spoke Hindi, that also increased, right? But that can be attributed to the basic, phenomena or the basic fact that the country's population was also increasing, it was also rising, and hence correspondingly you had the people who subscribe to or who speak Hindi, their number also increased. But the catch lies in the next set of statistics. When we take a look at this particular two pie charts here, two representations in chart 2 and chart 3 courtesy the Indian Express. So take a look at, here you have the figures, that is percentage of population, and here you have the percentage growth in number of speakers. Matlab ki how many people who were speaking a particular language, what was the increase in their number, and what was the percentage of the population which is speaking that particular language, right? So this will give you an exact idea that concerned or with respect to the overall population of the country. When we take a look at the reference of the overall population and we take a look at when this population it is increasing, how many people in this increased number of population are subscribing to which particular language. So as you can see, Hindi tops the chart in both the cases, that is 43.63% people subscribing to it, right? And 160.56% is the growth. That is, you can see the maximum amount of growth is also seen in the Hindi language, right? But the next thing, we were also comparing Hindi with Bengali. Now take a look at this particular figure and this particular figure. When we talk about the percentage of people, or you can say the people as a part of percentage of the total population, then we have 8% people basically speaking Bengali. But here you see, you have Bengali increase in the number of, the percentage growth in the number of speakers is double. That is more than 100% growth. Now compare this particular percentage, that is the doubling of the number of speakers who were speaking Bengali, to this particular figure here. This will, if you are able to decipher it along with me, isse matlab ya, isse samajh mein ye aa raha hai that, despite that the number of people who spoke Bengali or who speak Bengali, they getting increased, as a matter of percentage, that number did not rise as much as it was for, or it is for Hindi. See the difference between 43 or almost 44% and this number just being 8%, right? So that is where Rohit, Simran, Gopal, Yaman, Rushi, Gajanan, Prasant and Vikas, right? That is where the argument lies, that maybe Hindi has been, one of the favorite languages as far as the statistics are concerned. कि हमारे सामने जो आंकड़े हमें ये दिखा रहे हैं that Hindi has been one of those popular languages which has seen growth in both the terms, relative terms in the number of people compared to the total population, and also in absolute numbers when we talk about the people who speak Hindi, right? But still one thing is also there, जो मैं यहीं पे I want to make it clear to you, कि हिंदी सिर्फ और सिर्फ जो है, it is not pure Hindi. There are many other dialects also which are counted as a part of Hindi. For example, the Bhojpuri language, right? There are people in, you know, the states of like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, maybe the ones who speak or subscribe to the language which is called Bhojpuri. Now that also is considered under the ambit of Hindi only. So that is where maybe these statistics, you know, they have some we can say some confusing picture, or we can say that they are included in this set of Hindi itself, right? Okay, so that is what the statistics tell. Now coming to this map, which basically tells you the complete depiction of the country, and you can see that this red area here, when we talk of, take a look at this, when we talk of this particular area which is marked in the red, that is what you call as the Hindi heartland. It means that it subscribes to more than 80% people who are speaking or subscribing to Hindi. Apart from that, when we take a look at the northern states or the peninsular India, here the number dips to maybe 20 to 40 or below 20%. This particular state you can say is 20 to 40, but rest are below 20. And moving to the northeastern part of the country, that also has a dip in the number of people who speak or subscribe to Hindi, right? That is where the trouble lies. देखो, इन राज्यों में कोई दिक्कत नहीं है जब बात की जाती है हिंदी को यूज करने की या हिंदी की यूजेज को बढ़ाने की. So it is either the southern states or we can say the peninsular India which feel that the you know, that Hindi is being imposed on them, or it is the northeastern states which say that you are imposing something which is not, you know, our own, or something which we really don't want to do, right? Apart from that, you can see that here Andhra and Telangana have been, you know, depicted collectively. They also are of the same view, right? But still we can say that as a matter of, you know, the proportion of the entire country, majority here, you can see that they are in a way subscribing to Hindi, right? But we are not suggesting that you adopt it or you don't adopt it. We are just going by what the statistics say, right? Now compare it with the language, that is English, in which, you know, these northeastern states say that they are more comfortable than Hindi. So alongside Hindi, as you know, that English is also one of the official languages of India, and certainly that was done because we had this administrative convenience in mind, that the administration must be carried out in an easy manner. All the communication, देखो simple सी बात है, if the center is corresponding with the states or the states are communicating amongst themselves, then there has to be some convenience also which has to be looked into, and that is why English was provided for an official language by the central government, right? Although it is not among the 22 languages mentioned in the 8th schedule, so please mark it. It can be a question that can be asked in the prelims, right? Then it is one of the non-scheduled languages. Non-scheduled languages meaning that the ones which are not included in the 8th schedule to the constitution, right? And when we talk about English as being mother tongue of people in the country, then only 2.6 lakh English speakers were found in the 2011 census, right? That is just a fraction of the 121 crore people. तो मतलब ये है कि English, although is, you know, it gives us the convenience in administrative works, but still it is not the de facto choice of Indians in the first place. Now coming to the case of Northeast India, because that is where right now the issue has been arised, or the issue has arisen. So when we talk about the northeastern states, what they say is that as a second language, देखो, in northeastern states mein they have their native languages. For example, they have the Assamese, they have the Manipuri, they speak those native languages. But what they say that apart from their native language, English is their second preferred language. कि अगर इनको अपनी इनकी जो रीजनल लैंग्वेज है, जो इनकी वर्नाक्यूलर है या जो इनकी नेटिव लैंग्वेज है, उसके अलावा कोई लैंग्वेज चूज करनी हो तो दैट इज गोइंग टू बी इंग्लिश. And if we take a look at one of the statistics, that is, you know, if we talk about Manipur where they speak Manipuri, so among the 17 lakh people with Manipuri as their mother tongue, 4.8 lakh people declared their second language to be English, right? So that is where the people in Northeast say that we have our local language apart, or next to local language we prefer English. And this is where the Union Home Minister was referring to that, despite this being a foreign language, why do you really want to promote this language? And instead you should promote, or you can adopt Hindi as the next language, replacing English and not replacing this local language. Please understand that the government is not saying that you replace your own native, regional or vernacular language. You just replace the second preferred language. Instead of English, you can adopt Hindi. That is what the argument is from the government side, right? Is this thing clear? ये चीज समझ में आ रही है कि देखो सरकार कहीं पे ये नहीं कह रही है, the government is not at all saying that you replace your own native regional languages. ठीक है? Please give me a thumbs up in the comment section if this thing is getting into your head. If you're able to understand this, I hope that you are, right? All right. And apart from that, please make sure that yes, it is also an 8th schedule language. What? Manipuri, right? Because there can be a question that can be asked. Apart from that, when we talk about the concerns which these states have raised, that we, are a multilingual country, we are such a diverse country. So when we talk about the concept of cooperative federalism, remember India is a union of states and we have something that we call as cooperative federalism. So when we talk about cooperative federalism, what the states are saying that, anything which the central government is trying to impose on the states, that goes against the principles of federalism in the country, and that is certainly not acceptable even under the provisions of the constitution and the ethos of the constitution. So what do they say? That this is an imposition on us, and that is where it is troublesome. We cannot just accept anything which is being imposed on the states, right? Then they say that Hindi can be an optional subject and English is a preferred medium of instruction beside their local language. Precisely the bone of contention, or we can say the argument between the central government and the states of the northeastern part of the country. That the central government says that why do you not prefer Hindi except or apart or in place of English, and why do you really want to keep English as a second preferred language up after your native languages? This is the basic point of, we can say, contention which has raised this issue. Apart from that, many of the northeastern states say that this is anti-democratic move. This is a move which is anti-constitutional and certainly against, or it violates the federal setup of the constitution, right, as we have already spoken about. Then they also say that the 6th schedule, remember the 6th, 5th and the 6th schedules, they give certain kind of protection to the tribal areas in the country. Yes, you remember schedule 5 and schedule 6? हाँ जी, याद है आप लोगों को क्या है schedule 5 और 6? When we talk about schedule 5 and when we talk about schedule 6, except the 4 states of northeast, we have schedule 5, and the 4 states of northeast, when we talk about, they are mentioned in the schedule number 6. कौन-कौन सी states हैं? Comment section में मुझे लिख के बताओ. Please tell me, and please write and tell me in the comment section which states are mentioned in schedule 6 to the constitution, right, which are seeking protection right now. I'll just wait for that comment, but meanwhile let's move forward. That is some of the basic arguments which are raised by the northeastern states. Then apart from that, those were the arguments which have been specific to the northeastern region. Now apart from them, if we talk about the complete country including the peninsular part, the southern states, then they say that the southern states particularly, that Hindi being forced on them is really anti-constitutional, and they fear that because of this kind of imposition they might lose their cultural identity and diversity, right? Look, we are certainly homogeneous, we are certainly heterogeneous, and that heterogeneity is what is the basis of our cultural diversity, and it also makes cultural identities of different states, different regions, different linguistic groups in the country, which certainly schedule 5 and schedule 6 tend to protect also. So they say that why do you really want to do away with this cultural heterogeneity in the country, right? So that is some of the concerns. Now what can be the resolution, or what can be the way forward? So look, when we talk about anything that is related to language, this is a very, very emotional issue. This is one such issue which is highly sensitive in nature, and it really needs debate, dialogue, discussions. You cannot just superimpose, आप अपनी मर्जी किसी के ऊपर थोप नहीं सकते. जब लैंग्वेज की बात आती है, people really become emotional. It is something which is very close to their heart, and that is why it becomes a very emotive and sensitive issue which can really snowball into a very big controversy, right? So what is the need of the hour is to resolve such issues through building a broader consensus, and rather than having any kind of imposition from the top, right? And the zonal councils, remember, a mechanism to have good center-state relations, that can be put to play, that can be utilized, that forum can really give you some way out, right? And that is also our third topic for today's discussion. So make sure that you are connected till the very end of this video. This is what we are going to take in today's lecture itself, right? So that can be one way forward. You can also imagine of what can be the other ways through which the center or the states can resolve this issue, right? Okay, so moving to the next topic for the day. Hanji, exactly, Shakil, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram. All right, Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Tripura, now AMTM. ठीक है जी, ठीक है. Shreyans, Mehboob and Shakil Farooq. All right, ठीक है. चलिए. So Rohit has also given the answer. Great. All right. So moving to the next topic, that is the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. अब आपको याद होगा हमने पिछले किसी लेक्चर में डिस्कस किया था एनजीओस की फंडिंग एंड द फॉरेन कंट्रीब्यूशन रेगुलेशन एक्ट. इसी के रिगार्डिंग सुप्रीम कोर्ट में देयर वर सर्टेन पिटिशंस जिसके ऊपर सुप्रीम कोर्ट का वर्डिक्ट अब जो है वो आ गया है, राइट? सो व्हाट द सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज सेड दैट द फंडिंग cannot be absolute, that is there is no fundamental right which is absolute and including to receive any kind of foreign donations, right? That is there are going to be certain restrictions and those restrictions are very much valid. So when we talk about that, what was the issue, then the Supreme Court has said, as you remember, if you are continuously or if you are a regular attendee of these sessions, then you must be knowing that for any NGO or any association for that matter, if this NGO wants to receive any foreign funding, then it must have a registration with the Ministry of Home Affairs and it must obtain a certification under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. ठीक है, अब इसमें कुछ issues थे according to the NGOs, according to the voluntary sector in the country, due to which the petition was filed, and now the Supreme Court has said that these amendments which were introduced in the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, they are absolutely fine, they are constitutionally valid, and we do not find anything wrong in them, right? And what it has said is that no one has a fundamental right or an absolute right to receive foreign contributions. Matlab ki if you want to receive foreign contributions, that also is going to be qualified. It means that there can be certain reasonable restrictions that can be placed upon your right to receive those foreign contributions. ठीक है जी. और इसके साथ साथ कोर्ट ने कहा है that you cannot just allow these foreign contributions to lead to some kind of destabilization in the country or affecting the sovereignty of the nation. Apart from that, when we take a look into the further observations by the court, it has specifically said, this is verbatim and you can use this in your mains answer writing also. I hope that you are attending Surbhi ma'am's daily answer writing initiative, which is streamed at 9 PM in the evening. All right. So what the court has said, that when we talk about the amendments or the changes that were introduced in the FCRA, they are intra vires to the constitution. That is, they are absolutely valid and they do not contravene the constitution, and hence they are not being declared ultra vires, right? What the court said, that when we talk about all the other provisions except this particular provision, then all the other provisions are absolutely fine, they are valid. But the court said that yes, when we talk about the section 12A, which had mandated that all the office functionaries of the NGOs, they must mandatorily produce their Aadhaar, that has been diluted. ठीक है, कोर्ट ने क्या कहा है कि यहाँ पे they can provide their Indian passports and this will be accepted. This will be accepted and you need not give your Aadhaar card mandatorily. right? That has been certainly read down, or you can say that has certainly been diluted by the court. ये चीज प्लीज ध्यान रखना, इसके ऊपर एक प्रीलिम्स बेस्ड फैक्ट स्टेटमेंट या एक फैक्चुअल स्टेटमेंट बन सकती है दैट अकॉर्डिंग टू द रीसेंट अमेंडमेंट्स इन द एफसीआरए इट इज मैंडेटरी फॉर इंडियन नेशनल्स आल्सो टू प्रोड्यूस देयर आधार व्हाइल दे आर अप्लाइंग फॉर रजिस्ट्रेशन अंडर एफसीआरए. सो दैट इज गोइंग टू बी इनकरेक्ट. क्यों? क्योंकि मैंडेटरी नहीं है आधार देना. आपका इंडियन पासपोर्ट जो है वो भी एक्सेप्टेबल है एज पर द सुप्रीम कोर्ट वर्डिक्ट. ठीक है, सो प्लीज बेयर दिस इन माइंड. पहले जो था इंडियन पासपोर्ट वाला प्रोविजन नहीं था एंड इट वाज ओनली आधार which was mandatory, right? Now the court said that these Aadhaar numbers, the applicants should be allowed to produce Indian passports when foreign nationals are allowed to do so. तो जो foreign nationals हैं उनके लिए पहले से ही ये बात थी कि they can provide their passport to the authorities, to the Ministry of Home Affairs. Similar provision now has been extended to Indian nationals also, right? ठीक है, चलिए फिर इसके साथ साथ मूविंग अहेड, व्हाट द सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज ऑब्जर्व्ड दैट कि पिछले 2010 से लेके 19 के बीच में अप्रोक्सीमेटली 9-10 years what has been observed that the flow of foreign contributions has doubled, and this money is also somewhere we can say illicit money or illegitimate money, right, which has been used for different motivated or ulterior purposes. ठीक है, देश को नुकसान पहुंचाने के लिए. क्यों? क्योंकि कई सारी इनमें से एसोसिएशंस थी which failed to comply with the basic statutory formalities, और जिसकी वजह से इनके सर्टिफिकेशंस को कैंसिल भी किया गया under the FCRA, right? Apart from that, the court said that this is a very substantial number. It is a staggering number which has led to these amendments in the FCRA by the government. ठीक है, कि जो loopholes थे, जो gray areas थे, उनको plug करना जरूरी था. It was necessary to plug those, to fill in those gray areas, those loopholes, and that is where the FCRA amendments have been constitutionally valid. So, as far as the act is concerned, the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, let's quickly just sum up. We had already discussed it in one of our previous sessions, but still, let's quickly sum up. So, it was enacted in 1976, which was amended in 2010 and in 2020, जो अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जिसके ऊपर FCRA amendments 2020 which have been held constitutionally valid. Then it applies to all the associations, groups, NGOs which want to receive foreign funding. किसी को भी अगर foreign funding लेनी है, आप association हो, group हो, voluntary sector हो, कुछ भी हो, you have to register under the FCRA. ठीक है जी. Then it is certainly mandatory for these NGOs to register, and it regulates the foreign donations, and it ensures that they are not antithetical to our internal security, or they do not compromise upon the internal security concerns of the country as a whole, right? So if we look at the timeline, a brief timeline for FCRA, then originally the act, as you can see, it was brought in the year 1976. Remember the times of emergency during the prime ministership of Indira Gandhi, right? किस लिए? To keep a track on the foreign donations, or you can say influence of foreign money in social, political, economic and religious decisions. ठीक है, देखो सिंपल सी बात है, बाहर से अगर कोई तुम्हें पैसे दे रहा है तो जरूरी नहीं है that certainly that is for philanthropic reasons, या that is for charity, or that is for certain good cause. They can have their own motives, right? And to keep those motives which are not in the good interest of the country, such kind of legislations, such kind of laws are required, right? So after then 1984, it was made mandatory for these non-profit organizations to register under FCRA before they receive the foreign donations, right? And they were not supposed to pass these funds to the non-registered non-governmental organizations. Then in 2010, this earlier act, जो ये पहले कानून आया था, इसको repeal कर दिया गया था. This act was repealed, or this was made ineffective. It was taken out of the statute book, and in its place there was a new Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 that was brought into force. ठीक है, और इसी के basis पे there were the FCRA rules and regulations 2011 which were enforced, right? And इसके अंदर key changes जो थे, they were basically that only 50% foreign contributions can be used for administrative expenses, which now has been further reduced to just 20%. that only 20% of the total funding which has been received by an NGO or by an association can be used for administrative expenses. Rest 80% must be used for the actual groundwork which you are doing. ठीक है, ताकि जो है फंड्स को किसी अनाब शनाब लैविश लाइफस्टाइल जीने के लिए या कुछ और एक्टिविटीज में यूज ना किया जाए. ऑल राइट, देन these 2020 amendments which we have already discussed, so I'll not be going into these details right here, but that is where the new amendments have been brought in 2020 itself. ठीक है, उसका लिंक मैं डिस्क्रिप्शन बॉक्स में फिर भी डलवा दूंगा if some of you have not attended that lecture. So now the registration is valid for 5 years. पहले क्या था, एक बार देखो जो 1976 वाला लॉ था उसमें once you have registered then you are valid for lifetime. Your registration was valid for a lifetime. But after the 2010 amendment or the 2010 act which replaced the 1976 act, it was made that the registration will be valid for a period of 5 years and certainly it can be renewed later, taking into consideration that whether you are prescribing by the norms or not, whether you are abiding by these norms or not, right? And these NGOs, they have to file their annual returns with the income tax department in the country, which certainly looks into, which scrutinizes that whether the money is being spent for that particular purpose only, या क्या पैसा जो है वो ब्लैक मनी को व्हाइट मनी में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए या फिर किसी और इललेजिटिमेट या इलीगल अनलॉफुल एक्टिविटी के लिए यूज हो रहा है. ठीक है, दैट इज द अनदर थिंग. And apart from that, these associations which have registered themselves and have obtained the certification, ये कुछ specific purposes के लिए they can obtain the money, right? That is social, cultural, economic, religious and educational purposes. So if you are not using that money for either of these purposes, then that also is violation of the FCRA, right? And that can lead to the cancellation of your certification or non-renewal of your certification. All right. So the changes that have been made, let's just quickly take a look into those also. That's a recap for you. So एक नई चीज ऐड की गई है, that is New Delhi main branch of the State Bank of India. That is going to be one single stop account where the foreign contribution can be obtained. ठीक है, कि सिर्फ इसी एक ब्रांच में हर एक एनजीओ या हर एक एसोसिएशन जो है वो बाहर से पैसे रिसीव कर सकता है. That is what has been made mandatory now. ठीक है जी, क्या है ये? न्यू दिल्ली मेन ब्रांच ऑफ द स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया. और इसके बाद आप पूरे देश में कहीं पे भी किसी और बैंक में उस पैसे को ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो, बट एज अ वन सिंगल पॉइंट एंट्री from any foreign source, it is going to be the NDMB, that is the New Delhi main branch of the State Bank, right? And the NGOs, they can retain their FCRA accounts, जो existing उनके FCRA accounts हैं in any other bank, but mandatorily they have to link it with this New Delhi main branch of the State Bank. ठीक है, clear है इतनी चीज? चलो, then when we talk about the next thing, this is exactly the gazette notification of the government. Here you look, this is the State Bank. इट्स IFSC, जो एक सिंगल पॉइंट एंट्री बनाई गई है फॉरेन कंट्रीब्यूशन को रिसीव करने के लिए. दैट इज द न्यू दिल्ली मेन ब्रांच ऑफ द स्टेट बैंक ऑफ इंडिया. ठीक है, एंड दिस इज एज परसुएंट टू द अमेंडमेंट ऑफ 2020. तो क्या है, ये एक नया प्रोविजन है. इट इज अ न्यू प्रोविजन इन द लॉ, राइट? सो प्लीज रिमेंबर इट. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट दिस नोटिफिकेशन ओनली, दे से दैट कि अगर किसी भी एनजीओ को रजिस्ट्रेशन, if any NGO has been registered and it has got the license, then it will have to open a bank account with the New Delhi main branch of the State Bank of India. And here only this, or in this particular account only, सिर्फ इसी खाते में जो है आप पैसे ले सकते हो, आप foreign contributions ले सकते हो. ठीक है, so आप लोगों की रेफरेंस के लिए आई हैव इंक्लूडेड दीज स्निप्स फ्रॉम द गजट नोटिफिकेशन इटसेल्फ, दैट इज द एक्ट इटसेल्फ और द 2020 अमेंडमेंट्स, राइट? चलिए, सो अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट पर्टिकुलर चेंज, देयर आर सम अदर चेंजेस आल्सो, लाइक इफ यू आर अ पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन. मान लो अगर आप OCI या PIO कार्ड होल्डर हो, जो मर्ज हो गया अब तो वैसे, दैट इज पर्सन ऑफ इंडियन ओरिजिन और ओवरसीज सिटीजन ऑफ इंडिया. इफ यू आर होल्डिंग आइदर ऑफ दीज and you are contributing from a foreign country to Indian NGOs or Indian registered associations, then also you are under the ambit of FCRA. ठीक है, उसको भी जो है ट्रीट किया जाएगा as foreign contribution despite you being a person of Indian origin or a holder of the OCI. ठीक है, और इसके अलावा अगर आप जो हो, इफ यू आर सोर्सिंग और प्रोवाइडिंग दैट डोनेशन इन इंडियन रुपीज, मतलब कि that donation is not in dollars or pounds or any other currency but that is in Indian national rupees, INR में ही वो डोनेशन है, ठीक है, तब भी हम उसको फॉरेन डोनेशन ही मानेंगे। मतलब आप ये नहीं बोल सकते कि मैंने बाहर से आपको पैसे इंडियन रुपीज में भेजे तो दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू बी फॉरेन डोनेशन। नो, ऐसा नहीं है। Even if it is in INR in Indian national rupees, then also it will qualify as foreign contribution only, ठीक है जी। Apart from that, अगर NGOs जो हैं they are accepting those funds, then they are required to give an undertaking. वो एक undertaking देंगे। Undertaking का मतलब है कि एक assurance देंगे that whatever foreign funds they are receiving or accepting, they are not going to compromise the sovereignty and integrity of the country and all these things, ठीक है। जैसे कि फॉरेन स्टेट्स के साथ हमारे रिलेशंस या फिर किसी भी कम्युनल हार्मनी को डिसरप्ट नहीं करेंगे, रिलीजियस कन्वर्जन नहीं करेंगे, कम्युनल डिसहार्मनी क्रिएट नहीं करेंगे, कोई भी राइट्स वाली सिचुएशन को फंड करने के लिए वो मनी यूज नहीं होगी, राइट। सो दीज आर अ पार्ट ऑफ द अंडरटेकिंग विच द गवर्नमेंट विल टेक फ्रॉम द NGOs, right? So these are some of the changes, but the point is why these changes. So as also the court has observed and the government has also made it clear in the law itself that we have observed that the NGOs were in the violation of the existing provisions of the law or the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, and basically to stop, or you can say to fill those loopholes, it was necessary that you need an amendment to the existing FCRA and you need to regulate them properly, जिसकी वजह से इसको अमेंड किया गया, ठीक है। and there were foreign funding for influence in the country or for unsolicited influence which was motivated in nature and which has an angle of making India look bad in the international community, ठीक है। तो उसके चलते ये जो पूरा इंटरनेशनल क्रिटिसिज्म हो रहा था because of that kind of funding, that also had to be stopped, right? Then certainly you have the country's internal security which is always paramount, है ना, and to ensure that organizations which are prejudicial towards Indian interests, they are not allowed to fund the NGOs, ठीक है। कई सारी ऐसी organizations का including even Greenpeace and the likes of that have been time and again raised in the news, which are just funding the NGOs so as to prop up certain fake or certain motivated protests against some of the developmental projects in the country, including some of the nuclear power plants, right? Because they have their own vested interests. They are not for anybody's development, but their own vested interests are the motivating factors, ठीक है जी। तो इसलिए सरकार ने कहा कि ये जो है जरूरी है। Now the point is what next? That since the Supreme Court has upheld the constitutional validity of these amendments in the FCRA, now where do we go from this place? So certainly these amendments, as the Supreme Court itself has said, that they are not prohibiting inflow of foreign contributions. मतलब कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि हमने बैन नहीं किया है, we have not banned foreign contributions, we are just trying to regulate, we are just trying to provide for certain adequate regulatory measures to permit the acceptance of the legitimate money which is for a legitimate cause, right? और आप प्रायर परमिशन के साथ उसको करो, then you are certainly more than welcome to ask for foreign contributions, ठीक है जी। That is the first argument which the court has given. Apart from that, the next thing is that कि अगर हम इस फॉरेन फंडिंग को बिल्कुल ही अनरेगुलेटेड छोड़ देंगे, then look, it is certainly going to have detrimental effects on the country, right? It might also disrupt the socio-economic structure of the country and the polity of the nation also. Why? Because then the foreign powers or the organizations which are against or which want to harm the interests of the country, which are really wanting to create some sort of disharmony, riot like conditions in our own society, they are going to get a channel through which they can fund those activities, and that is where you cannot simply let them be unregulated, right? So certainly this is the need of the hour, that we have to have adequate amount of regulation, and the Supreme Court says that this is that adequate regulation, right? चलिए, so with that we are moving to the next topic that is very important again. क्यों? क्योंकि remember हमने zonal councils का आज ही लिंक किया है, that even to resolve the issue of the language you can work out them through the zonal councils. तो अब important ये है कि क्यों न्यूज में हैं, why are these in news and what are these, क्या हैं zonal councils, right? So please type a yes in the comment section or just give me a thumbs up if you are clear until this point of time. यहाँ तक सारी चीजें सब लोगों को बढ़िया से समझ में आ गई हैं, आई होप. फटाफट एक yes लिख दो या thumbs up बना दो comment section में, and then we are going to take up the zonal councils. All right. So when we talk about the zonal councils, there are multiple zonal councils in the country. हम सबके बारे में बात करेंगे कि किस तरीके से composition है. But before we go into that, please remember कि अभी Eastern Zonal Council की जो meeting है, that is going to be there, and because of which this is in news, right? That there are going to be certain issues which are likely to be raised in that Eastern Zonal Council meeting, because of which it becomes important for us to discuss them. Right, so this council which is the Eastern Zonal Council, जिसमें ईस्टर्न पार्ट जो है कंट्री का, उसके स्टेट्स जो हैं पार्टिसिपेंट हैं या पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे, this is they are likely going to discuss issues pertaining to these eastern states like Bihar, Jharkhand, Bengal, and certainly the states of these or the territories of these states, which are some of them are facing left-wing extremism which affects the internal security of the country. That is also going to be taken up, because that is a greater challenge for the security forces in these particular states, right? So that is why it is important. So let's take a look at the constitutional provisions as to the zonal councils. So first thing, a fact for you, that these are under the Ministry of Home Affairs, that these zonal councils are formed, and the Minister of the Union Ministry of Home Affairs, or you can say the Union Home Minister, that basically is the chairman, right? So let's take up exactly what is the issue, but please remember it is the Ministry of Home Affairs which is the parental body or the parental organization that deals with zonal councils. So when we take a look at the background, then we all have the cooperative federalism in the country, that there is one center and you have multiple states across the country which come together and which cooperate with each other so that this country can function effectively. So इसी चीज को ध्यान में रखते हुए, in just after the independent, just after we gained independence, the first Prime Minister of India, that is Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, he had this idea that we need to have certain zonal councils. ठीक है, किस लिए होनी चाहिए ये zonal councils? So that जो अलग अलग देश में states हैं वो they can be divided into certain groups based upon their geographical locations, and maybe they can be 4 or they can be 5 zones which can talk to each other and develop the habit of cooperative working among the states themselves. देखो सिंपल सी बात है, इतना बड़ा देश है, हर स्टेट एक साथ बैठ के हर मुद्दे को डिस्कस नहीं कर सकती, एंड ऑल्सो एक चीज समझो कि जोग्राफिकली द वंस विच आर coastal states, the ones which are hilly states, they are having some similar kind of issues, they are having some similar kind of challenges, so they can be brought together as a part of that council, जहां पे आप उन 4-5 states को इकट्ठे लाके बिठाओ, and you can ask them to discuss and put forth their suggestions, tell their challenges, and cooperate and coordinate along with the union government or the central government in tackling or resolving those challenges. ठीक है, in this light only, or you can say in this particular understanding, there were 5 zonal councils that were set up as a part of the State Reorganization Act of 1956. ठीक है, that was the background. Now when we talk about the roles and objectives of these zonal councils, then certainly the first thing was bringing national integration. देखो सभी states के challenges को अगर आप solve कर रहे हो, you are bringing them together, you are trying to provide for cooperative federalism, then certainly you are also promoting national integration. अब ये आज की डेट में हो सकता है आप लोगों को लग रहा हो कि नेशनल इंटीग्रेशन की क्या जरूरत है यार, या इसके पीछे क्या लॉजिक है. इसके पीछे सर लॉजिक ये है, प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड दैट वाज द टाइम ऑफ पार्टीशन आल्सो, दैट वाज द टाइम ऑफ मेनी प्रिंसली स्टेट्स वांटिंग टू नॉट जॉइन इंडियन डोमिनियन, राइट? So we certainly needed mechanisms through which we can promote national integration, right? And this zonal council was one such mechanism. Then apart from that, to arrest the growth of certain secessionist or divisive tendencies such as regionalism, linguism, any other particularistic tendency, जिससे क्या हो सकता है कि नेशनल इंटीग्रेशन कॉम्प्रोमाइज होगा या नेशनल इंटीग्रेशन हार्म हो सकता है, राइट? हम क्या कर रहे हैं, हम एक फेविकोल का जोड़ देने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? इफ यू अलाउ मी टू यूज दैट वर्ड, कि वो फेविकोल का जोड़ है, टूटने से भी नहीं टूटेगा, ठीक है? That kind of thing was envisaged through these zonal councils, that they will provide that binding glue to the country which will promote national integration. ठीक है? That was the second, we can say, role and objective behind this. Then apart from that, enabling the states, the different states of the country and the union government or the center to cooperate with each other and exchange their ideas and experiences. ठीक है? देखो, every state is having its own peculiar and unique set of circumstances, its unique kind of administrative, challenges, and the central government is also having their own kind of challenges and their own kind of functioning. So they can come together, they can provide suggestions to each other, they can cooperate with each other, and they can have exchange of views, right? Exchange of views and ideas. So that was the third role. Apart from that, to establish a climate of cooperation amongst the states for successful and speedy execution of developmental projects. देखो, सिंपल सी बात है, इतने बड़े देश में सिर्फ यूनियन गवर्नमेंट, only and only the union government cannot bring about all the development. It has to be a cooperative effort between the states and the union government. Only then we can provide for that climate where you provide welfare of the people, where you provide development to the people. ठीक है? वो राज्य भी तभी तरक्की कर सकते हैं when they are cooperating with the union government, and also they are cooperating within themselves or between themselves, that is the state governments, right? So those were the things which led to these zonal councils establishment. Now when we talk about the composition, so इस composition में देखो, जो हमने बात करी कि 5 zonal councils होंगी, so they were basically the northern, southern, eastern and western and the central zonal council. ठीक है? Similar colors are depicting the states or the union territories which are a part of these zonal councils. For example, you have Andhra, Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, UT of Puducherry and Telangana, which are a part of the southern zonal council. Likewise, you have, sorry, this is a repeat. Likewise, you have Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Sikkim and West Bengal, which are a part of the eastern zonal council, right? Then you have the central zonal council and you have the northern zonal council. Right, this is an error, this is just a clerical mistake. I'll make sure that the PDF is corrected, right? So these are how the compositions are for the zonal councils, that is north, south, east, north and west, right? All right, so moving ahead from this, now what is the organizational structure? अगर organizational structure की बात करें, then you have the chairperson or the chairman, that is the union home minister. Then you have vice chairman. वाइस चेयरमैन कौन होगा? जो भी इन यूनियन टेरिटरी या इन स्टेट्स का चीफ मिनिस्टर है, उसमें से कोई एक स्टेट के चीफ मिनिस्टर को वाइस चेयरमैन बनाया जाता है, ठीक है? लेकिन जो है दैट इज बाय रोटेशन, ठीक है? दैट इज ईच ऑफिस और ईच पर्सन विल होल्ड ऑफिस फॉर 1 year एट अ टाइम. मतलब कि अगर मान लो कि नॉर्दर्न जोनल काउंसिल है, तो नॉर्दर्न जोनल काउंसिल में हरियाणा, पंजाब, हिमाचल जो भी सारे स्टेट्स हैं, उनमें से 1 साल के लिए हर एक स्टेट का जो चीफ मिनिस्टर है वो वाइस चेयरमैन होगा उस पर्टिकुलर जोनल काउंसिल के लिए, राइट? देन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट देयर आर मेंबर्स आल्सो, देयर आर एडवाइजर्स आल्सो, एंड द यूनियन मिनिस्टर्स कैन आल्सो अटेंड द जोनल काउंसिल मीटिंग्स, ठीक है? सो दिस इज सम फैक्चुअल इंफॉर्मेशन फॉर योर प्रीलिम्स पर्सपेक्टिव. This you can take a look in the PDF itself. Moving forward, then what are the functions? So certainly the zonal councils, they are, they are an advisory body. So अगर आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए that their recommendations are binding upon the government or on the home ministry, then that will be incorrect. These are not binding, these are just recommendations which are advisory in nature, and it is up to the government to accept or reject them, ठीक है? Then they can discuss any matter जहाँ पे states के regarding कोई भी उनका concern या कोई भी उनके interests जो हैं they are related to them, right? And maybe it can be one state, it can be multiple or more than one states, and they can give advice to the central government, regarding that particular matter, right? So apart from that area of common interest, they can also, this a particular zonal council can also discuss and make recommendations with regarding the matters which are in their economic or social planning interest, or any matter regarding border disputes, then linguistic minorities or interstate transport. Now this is the first topic that we discussed, right? The language based issue and certain linguistic minorities in the country which fear that they might lose their language because if the dominant language which is Hindi is imposed on them. Okay, so that is why this is also related to that topic, right? Then any other matter which arises out of reorganization of the states. ठीक है, जो अभी तो खैर reorganization इतनी नहीं हो रही है, but yes, at that point of time, just after independence, the country was, geographically it was being reorganized, right? So that is where the zonal councils have the functions. Yes, so now we have come to an end of this session, that is the zonal councils. If anybody is having any doubt, then please, the session is open for you, or else I'll close the session here only and we are going to meet next week. Hanji. Yes, Rohit, Vivek, Akhtar, Mehboob, Shakil, Shreyans, Rushi and all the other people. Hanji. किसी का कोई डाउट है तो प्लीज लेट मी नो, अदरवाइज टुमारो इट इज गोइंग टू बी अनुराग सर who is going to be there at your service with Indian economy current affairs. And just to remind you, the description box of this video, go and check it out, the Siddhi test series, that is all India open mock test for you to judge yourselves, to evaluate yourselves for the mock for the civil services prelims examination this year, right? So you can register, you can click on that link, that is absolutely free for you, and you can enroll yourselves, right? Okay, ठीक है जी. So do like this video, share it, subscribe the channel and share this video. Hit that like button, which is the constant motivation for us to bring such more informative videos for you. And I'll see you next week in one such another great video related to polity and governance current affairs. Until then, all of you stay safe. Particularly, I'm saying this because today itself it is in the news that COVID cases or coronavirus cases are again rising in the national capital. So please be sure that you follow COVID appropriate behavior, right? Although there are no protocols, but still it is for your own safety. And jaan hai to jahan hai, right? Health is certainly a very big parameter in your preparation and a better preparation. So stay safe, study well. See you next week. Jai Hind and bye bye.